Back again YouTube, and welcome back to the coding workshop. And finally we're going to start writing some code, building out this PHP application that we've been talking so much about. And if you've actually gone back to the last video where I've talked about structuring and how we're going to approach this project, I've actually made some changes. So what I want to do now with the project is actually build it from the core upwards. So meaning we're going to extract the core classes and interface from the application and just rebuild it as a standalone package. Then we're going to submit that to packages, then download it through Composer back into our application, then build around that. And the idea behind that is anyone can then go and download it and use it however they want, because this is not going to be a tutorial that builds a project and then say, oh, it's not production ready. I want this to be production ready code. So that's all we're going to start code. That's all we're going to code our project, because we want to be able to use it in a production environment later on. Obviously after we do all unit testing and all that kind of stuff. But that's the aim that we're going to aim for. We're going to aim to build it as a production ready code by implementing all the stuff that a team of developers would be implementing if they're building a real project, which is what we're going to be doing. So what that means as well is I want to jump straight into initializing the project on Git, Composer from the get-go, and sort of like commit as we go along, so you guys can get all the updates from Git. If you go on Git, I'll put the links down in the description so you can go visit the project, download it, clone it. You know, if you're following along, you could play around with the code as you see fit. And yeah, so that's basically how we're going to go about putting this together. We're going to build it from the core upwards and go from there, and allow ourselves to download it and build our own application around it. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new project folder. Just open, and I'm right into my htdocs root directory. So say new folder, framework, select, and I actually gonna go and set up a new repo from on my Git account. So I'm gonna drag this page across. I'm gonna create a new repo. Give it Magma Core. This is what we're gonna be calling the core framework, Magma Core, and it's gonna be within that Lava namespace. So Magma Core is gonna be the core framework for this project. Give it a little description called a simple PHP framework for building web application. A simple generic description. I'm going to leave it as public because, as I'm saying, it's going to be a public repository, so you guys can come along and download it and play around with the code base. So I'll click create. Let that go. So I'm going to make this a little bit easy for myself by just copy and paste this actual terminal command. So I'm not messing around writing code line by line when it comes to initializing Git. I'm going to copy that. I want to make some changes though, so I'm going to paste it, and I'm going to change main to master because I want my branch to be called master, not main. That's just personal preference. You can call your branch whatever you want. So I'm going to copy that again. I'm going to open up my terminal, and I'm going to just paste that in. Hit enter, and that finish. And I think that's it. I think we've now made our first commit to Git. If I reload the page, there we go. Magma Core, first commit, which is right here, 13 seconds ago. So we know that we're now initialized on Git. We're gonna be committing updates as we go along, so you guys will have all the latest stuff that we've been writing, so you can follow along. So I'm gonna jump back into my editor, and I'm gonna close that out. Don't save. I want to actually initialize Composer as well. So I'm going to say Composer init and leave it as it. We're going to actually change the vendor name. We're going to say lava /. magma core, all lowercase. Description: a simple PHP framework for building web application. I'm gonna leave the alter as it is for now. I might change that later on. Stability to alpha. Package type, say library. License MIT, because this is going to be an open source project. Say no for that. No for that. Yes. And yes, do add or vendor directly to our git ignore file. Yep. And there we go. So we've got our composer file that's been initialized. And so that is set up and ready to go. We've got a README file that was generated when we initialize our Git repository, and I'm going to actually create a separate file called index.php, and this is simply going to be a test file that we're going to be using to test as we go along. Simple test, like just see if we can instantiate our classes, and just making sure that our namespace is right. So there won't be no massive test. It's just sort of like little test as we go along, because this project, as we're building it, there's not a lot of visuals to it. It's a lot of like imagination. So we're sort of like got a plan in our head. We're imagining what different class and different interface is going to be doing. I mean, so bear with me, guys. Stick with it, because at the end you're gonna see how it's gonna work wild, spending time building stuff like this. Because if you're out there in the real world developing applications for big corporations and companies, this is the process that you go through. You do all the hard work now, so you can pick all the fruits later on by doing all the hard work now. So I'm going to create an index.php file, and this is going to be a file that we're going to use to test out our stuff while we go along. So there's no real importance to this. We will be deleting this file when we come to sort of like packaging up our project and putting it onto packages. So now that we've done that, this is our first video building this project, and I'm going to title this video Initializing Our Framework. So it's going to be a nice and short video, this is going to be the end for it after I've done this last commit, push this to our repo. So we've got our starter files ready, or we've got our project ready to start actually putting in some actual code. So I'm going to quickly do a commit on this. So I'm going to say git status, so you can see all the files that we've just added. So say git add dot and git commit, put a message and say initial commit. I'm going to say git push origin master. So I'm going to push this next commit to our repository. So we can check that. And here we go. We've got all of our files that we've just created. It's now in our public repo, so you guys can head over, you can check it out, because all the updates as we go along is going to appear in our repo, so you can follow along with the project, download it, mess around with the code if you want. So that's going to be it for the first video, guys. The second video is going to go about creating some directories, so we know exactly what we're doing, what we're working in. So stay tuned for the next video, because it will be dropping pretty soon. Thank you. Bye.